But most of the ultra wealthy, they don't have wealth, they have inflation receptacles.
Yes. Yeah,
That's what they
exactly.
have.
That's great. Yes, they have inflation receptacles.
Clothing kind of seeps into your body and who knows what it does, and
Yeah.
goes into your uh vesicles, your seminal vesicles, and like mutates your sperm and has you creating all these weird plastic human monsters. Hey guys, Ralph here from the Endgame Investor with Phil on the line for this month's edition of the Bitter Endgame Draft. And things are not calm. Gold is going up $100 one day, up another $150 the next day, down another $150 third day, and then down another 85. Things are crazy. Silver's lagging, then silver's leading. We don't know how long this volatility is going to last. It's going to last until the end game, I think, or something like it. Phil, how are you doing? And what is new in the area that you live in?
Well, this is all like Chinese water torture to me because it's I can't do anything without thinking of the end game in the back of my mind. I can't go to an amusement park without thinking like, geez, the market is today the day that we can't drive home safely? Like
Mhm.
the burning dumpsters of and mobs rioting everywhere. But no, it's we're getting along fine. Everything's fine. Everything's just fine.
Good. You sent me a list of topics that we wanted to go through. I wanted to add a fourth one that we'll do at the beginning here. The first one you wanted to cover is silver's future in the aftermath of the endgame and the return to healthy banking. Two is Triffin's dilemma, and three is talking about a gold to S&P 500 chart that you say is an illusion, and I will share that chart when we get to that topic. But the first topic I really wanted to cover here is the general feeling of, let's say, malaise, but hopelessness in ever being able to dislodge the elite from their current inflationary pedestals. That they have so much wealth and so much money, and they have this all planned, and it's a controlled demolition, and they're going to control the end game, and they're going to stay on top. I was listening to America This Week, which is Matt Taibbi's and Walter Kern's twice weekly podcast. I think it's once a week on Rumble and once a week on Substack. Walter Kern, I think, is one of the political, not in terms that he's like a politician, but he understands broad trends in politics and how they reflect society and culture, and he can distill where a country or a society is headed based on the politics that he sees developing. I don't think there's anyone better than him. I haven't heard anyone better than him. But today they were referencing a New York Times article. It was one of those elite newspapers that nobody reads anymore. I don't remember which one. But this guy, David Brooks, who they referred to as something like the king of the yuppies, and now he's calling for some kind of revolt against Trump, calling all the yuppies to arms, the ones that go on these food tours and they have all these culinary delights and travel all across the world and see all the sights, and they just think they're so awesome, that nobody would ever dislike them because they're just too cool for existence. And all the slaves in our class of people, I wouldn't, not that we're slaves, but we don't really identify with the yuppies. And even though we're not poor, we like Trump isn't poor either, but he doesn't identify with the yuppies either. David Brooks's column was so tone deaf. The fact that he could even possibly think that he could call for a revolution in a Marxian style, let's stir up the masses and get everyone, really upset about their humongous 401ks and their multi-billion dollar hedge fund management, and get to the streets because Trump is shutting off the inflationary spigots for them. And attacking Harvard and their nest of their nurseries for the power elite. It's so tone deaf, and he has no idea that he sounds like an idiot to like 98% of the country. And so that got me thinking, what situation are these yuppie leaders really in? Do they understand anything? Do they understand the humongous pieces of inflationary capital that they control, or even why they bestow upon them the obscene amounts of wealth that they do? I don't think they get it. And then that leads to the basic question of, do these people have any money? I'm not talking about assets. I'm not talking about real estate, farmland, whatever they may own, huge stock portfolios, bond portfolios, exotic assets, private equity. I'm talking about money. Do they have any gold bars in a safe somewhere? And maybe they have like a little bit, okay? But when it comes to it, I think your average stacker of even my stature, and I'm lower middle class on American standards, and I think you are too, or maybe middle. I don't know exactly where you are, somewhere in the middle class. I think that we have more money than they do. I think I
Wow.
I think so. Um,
Well, didn't one of the Waltons from Walmart, didn't she buy like $50 million of silver from Andy Schectman a few months ago?
could be. No, it could be that there's someone way high up there that
Yeah.
understands what we're saying and they have a whole bunch of gold and silver. And that's good because if they understand what we're saying, then they're not part of the yuppies.
Yeah. Do you remember that? I remember Schechtman went on a bunch of video. I think he went on Dunnigan Kaiser and a few others, and he was talking about like this was a gigantic silver purchase, biggest he ever did by far.
Could be.
And he had to like call in all his favors from everybody because he's one
Yeah.
of those people who's like, get me $50 million of silver tomorrow. And he's one of those people like, I don't care how you do it, just do it. Don't tell
Yeah.
don't tell me what the price is, just get me the silver. And it's like,
Right.
well, what
I
do you
think Peter Schiff said
yeah,
something similar. Like he was delivering this humongous order of junk silver
yeah.
to one of his neighbors who ordered through him in Puerto Rico. And so he just like loaded his car's
Yeah.
trunk up with like bags and bags of junk silver, and it like was weighing down the bottom of his car. And he was like really, whereas he was personally driving it to his client and like unloading his trunk. I don't know how much it was. But like the point I wanted to make, and I want to hear your response to this, or how you can reflect off of it, is the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, they have a bunch of assets, but in the end game, the value of their assets, it's not going to be worthless. It's not going to be that real estate is worthless. It's not going to be that their stock portfolios are worthless. And it's not going to be that their farmland is worthless, but they're going to lose value drastically compared to money, which is going to be the highest commodity in demand versus anything else, even food and water. Because you can't distribute food and water without money. That's what people don't understand. So what I'm saying is they are not prepared for the end game. I don't think most of them are. Some of them might be, and the ones that are, if they're prepared for it now, then they're probably the good guys. So like Elon Musk, I would say is like a pseudo good guy. I can't exactly tell where he is though, but
Some probably do. There's got to be some who are like even just looking at the numbers saying, "Wow, gold's really going up." And for the capitalists, even capitalists who don't understand what gold is, can see, "Oh, this is going to go up at an exponential rate, so I might as well get on the train now." So yeah, there's some. But there's
Mhm.
others who are like, oh yeah, Bitcoin. I have my life savings in Bitcoin, and that's going to carry me through forever and make my children quadzillionaires. And
Mhm.
I don't need to. And those people are going to be, having a really hard time. Yeah, and as far as assets, yes, you're going to have to. Even people like Bill Gates who've bought like all the farmland. They have enormous farmland. They're going to have to sell it because they don't have the capital to. When credit breaks down, you don't have the capital to manage, like in a hierarchical structure, manage giant companies. And to manage all that farmland, you would need a giant company. So what do? You break it up into a million different small farms, and people manage it in a much smaller scale. You just run family farms like we're supposed to.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not a farmer. I'm not interested in farming, but there are a lot of people who would probably do farming if it was more, if they weren't getting turfed out by giant agribusiness. And that the giant agribusiness is going to go away. I promise everybody.
right,
Like one of the functions of inflation is companies grow to enormous scales based on credit that they can get and no one else can get. When that credit goes away, they have no choice but to break into a billion tiny pieces. And, it goes back to almost all the way back to cottage industry. So yeah, even the big landholders like Bill Gates, they're gonna have to sell off all that farmland. And if he has no gold and silver, like you said, he's gonna have to sell off almost all his farmland.
right. So here's a quick way to look at it. It's that the ultra wealthy, I'm talking about the bad ultra wealthy. I know there's some good stackers out there and some good ones on our side, and we'll need their help. But most of the ultra wealthy, they don't have wealth, they have inflation receptacles.
Yes. Yeah,
That's what they
exactly. That's
have.
great. Yes, they have inflation receptacles.
A receptacle.
This is $180.
It is our most modestly priced receptacle. That is our most modestly priced receptacle.
That's a great way to put it, Rafi. Yeah, I agree with that assessment 100%. They have stock in high tech companies. They have, they have mansions that nobody will want to own on the end game. They have all this stuff. They have yachts,
Yeah.
and they have works of art, right? People think, oh, works of art are a great investment because the dollar value goes up.
What? It's not even scratch and sniff. But if rich people think it's good, I'll buy it. One art, please.
Well, when people are scrounging around, you end up burning your Picasso to stay warm at night.
How much is that placemat actually worth, Brannigan?
Exactly $1 billion.
Right, which is exactly why I'm not a fan of numismatics because though I like gold and silver, I'm not a big fan of gold and silver art, right?
Yeah,
Because
no, you
people are
get
people
milked.
are going to take their coins and they're just going to trade them for bullion. It's not going to have any numismatic value. If you have plenty of bullion and you have a few numismatic coins because you love them, like if you
Yeah,
have
sure.
but let's say you have a luxury car just because you love the thing and you love driving it, great. Have your toy. Just make sure that you can hold on to it.
So I have a couple of Arthurian legend rounds.
Mhm.
They were like $5 extra or something. But they
Yeah.
got cool designs. I like it. I think that's Sir Gawain. But
Mhm.
they got cool Arthurian legend stuff. I have a couple of them. I didn't even buy the whole set. I just bought a couple because I thought they were cool. Will I complete the set? Maybe. But I didn't make that my entire. I didn't buy hundreds and hundreds of them. Mostly, I bought stuff for melt value.
Right.
Whatever the cheapest is going to be.
Also, I wanted to tell you about I've had a few experiences of endgame flickering or brownouts or some previews of what the endgame is going to look like in the past few days. Okay.
Hmm.
So it started a few days before Passover, and I ordered my matzah a few days before. I ordered like soft matzah that needs to be refrigerated, not the cracker kind. Um, and they botched my order. I ordered one oat and one spelt, and oat for my wife who is gluten intolerant or whatever it is, and one spelt for me because the mitzvah of matzah is not in oat. According to most rabbis, it's in wheat or spelt or rye or barley. So they gave me two oat matzahs, and then I didn't have matzah for Passover. So we were gonna go make matzahs with my friend anyway, which we did, and it was fine. Everything went okay. We had ordered a bunk bed for my two daughters to save space in their room because we have a pretty small house. Again, I'm not rich, I'm lower middle class. So we ordered a bunk bed, and then like it didn't come, and we called the company, and they're like, we have no record of this order, so they had to like companies can't keep track of anything anymore, it seems. And the other bed that we ordered because my son's bed broke just came in today, but we had ordered a mattress. And then they said, well, we didn't bring the mattress, but we'll steal this other mattress from this other customer, and we'll give you the mattress because you live way up north, and this guy lives, near Tel Aviv, so we'd have to come here again to give you another mattress. We'll just take it from him, and he'll get it later. So it was like, fractional reserve mattress. They messed up the order, and 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 my wife had a doctor's appointment this morning and the internet was down. This is like real. This is kind of scary. The internet, nothing emergency, but she had a routine doctor's appointment, and the internet happened to be down today at the doctor's office, and so like everyone was standing around just there doing nothing because they
Yeah, they
couldn't
can't. They can't.
they
Yeah.
can't they can't do any flow without the internet because everything is run on computers and checking barcodes and what nobody could do anything. The doctors couldn't treat anyone. And so my wife is like, "Well, can you make me an appointment for next week when the internet's back up?" And then she's like, no, we can't do that because the internet's down.
It's
So
down,
she's
yeah.
like, she takes out her phone, goes on the phone, like makes herself an appointment, and they're completely empty because nobody thought of making an appointment on the phone with the wireless internet because the internet in the office is down. They're so like dull that they couldn't even pick up the they couldn't operate. Like, how could you not figure out to pick up the phone and do it on the okay? But like these are the people that I live amongst.
Yeah.
And when things are down, they are not going to be able to function at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scary, especially if you haven't prepped at all. I mean, if you've prepped a little bit, you can say, okay, well, now I need to do this, now I need to if you have a water purifier, you can go down to the creek and get some water if the water goes bad or doesn't isn't coming out of the tap or whatever. But yeah, if you have nothing, yeah, you just have to sit there and wait for things to come back on, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say the large natural monopolies that make up our utility stuff, those will be because the marginal cost is so low, they'll be the last to go down and the first to go back up on the end game. So I don't want people to freak out that the electricity and the water is going to stay down for a long time. That probably won't happen unless people blow up the water facilities. I mean, if things get kinetic, then yeah.
Mhm.
But as long as the pipes and the facilities are physically intact, and the only issue is paying the workers to whatever crank the water purifier wheel. I don't know.
Right.
Then it will get flowing again very quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we
Let's see.
want to talk about the future of silver.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I just did an episode on this, and a lot of people are wondering why silver is languishing behind, and I think even Market Sniper, with it, we've had run-ins with. But I do, as far as triangulating the end game, I think he is one of the best in this sphere. Even if I don't personally care for him very much, but you recognize talent and you follow it. He's calling for the gold silver ratio to spike briefly up to something like 170. That's what his technical analysis says, is that, and that's not the silver's going to go down in dollar terms, just silver's going to go up to $50, whereas gold is going to, explode up to $8,000, $9,000. So the gold silver ratio is going to spike up to about 170 to 1 and then collapse down to 15 to 1. And so the people are asking, especially the silver bugs who are either new to it or aren't paying that much attention, are wondering, like, when silver? I have all this investment in silver. Why isn't it going anywhere? Why do I feel like a fool all the time? Why do people call me a fool? And I want to say, like, you have to have absolute strategic patience with silver, because it's going to go from one of the least valued assets in the world to possibly the most valued asset in the world, and on a percent basis, in a very short order. And then what happens? You agree with this assessment, by the way?
I don't know. I don't know if he's right about 170. I mean,
Okay.
I
But I mean, a
certainly
big
I
spike.
certainly agree that it's not impossible, and it wouldn't shock me if that happened.
Yeah.
And this
Especially
this is
as
actually this
volatile.
is one of the reasons that I own gold and not just silver, even though I prefer silver. I own gold because I knew something like this is going to happen, and if it did, I didn't want to be in a position where I'm like, oh my God, I have to be right about this, or I'm going to lose everything. I want to, like, just be able to take it calmly, and if gold goes crazy and silver doesn't, I'm still okay. And if eventually when silver goes crazy and gold doesn't, I'll be okay too. I just keep
Okay,
myself
yeah.
balanced.
So when silver goes back to its monetary ratio, you and I both agree we think it's not going to stay there for very long. And people say, why not? Why aren't we staying at the 15 to 1 ratio? And the answer to that is credit. Because credit and silver credit of gold, I should say, credit of gold and silver are in direct competition with each other. So when you go to buy something, right, and someone says, that'll be $1, that'll be $10, you can either pay with silver dollars, you can pull silver coins out of your pocket and hand them over, or you can pay with a credit card. And as long as the credit is trusted, credit will beat money every time, every single time in a transaction. It's preferred. Because if you think about it, right, if you have to carry, let's say it's $100, if you have to carry $100 worth of silver, that's a heavy bag of silver with you. Or you can carry your credit card, or even, modern days, you can just show your hand and it's connected to your bank account, right? They have like palm readers. I
Yeah.
haven't used those. I'm too scared of it.
Don't,
They have,
don't. I don't think you want to
yeah.
do that.
Put your tattoo in that shit. Where's your tattoo? Tattoo. Where's your tattoo? Why come you don't have a tattoo?
Oh my God.
You're not unscannable, are you?
They have like palm readers so you can just scan your hand. Unscannable! Oh! So when you're carrying the silver, right, it's bulky, it's uncomfortable, it's dangerous because you're carrying a large bag of silver, right? If Peter Schiff had gotten robbed, or if the police had pulled him over and he had a giant bag of silver, they do a civil asset forfeiture on him. 15 to 1 silver is not some utopia where we're all just prancing around, happy as can be. There's a lot of problems with money directly. And so credit, when trusted, is preferable to money. The problem is the makers of the credit like to also skim off the top. And so you have theft in that venue as well. So what I think is my prediction is we're going to go back to an 1873 to 1913 style of monetary system where we're on a gold standard and everything is gold, but then silver coinage will probably stick around because people will not trust the credit system like we are doing right now, where people don't even understand what money is, and they're just like, oh yeah, this credit is money. People will instinctually distrust credit for probably quite some time. However, the utopian idea that we're going back to a silver standard, while I would love to see it, I don't think it's going to happen. There's a legitimate problem in the bimetallism with the silver standard, and that is that the gold and silver ratios must float. You know this, and we've discussed this before, I think, on these chats. But the gold and silver ratio must float against each other, so you can't have both things named dollars, because when you peg it, one of them is going to drive out the other, and that was a real problem they were having in 1873. Now, as it turns out, the bankers also wanted to get silver out of the system so they could print a bunch of credit for gold and not have to show the gold. So there's a real reason and there's a scam reason as well for getting off the silver standard.
Right.
Would I love to see a silver standard? Absolutely. Do I think we're going back to a full pre-1873 silver standard? No, I don't. I think we're going to go back to a gold standard with silver coinage that is breaking down gold.
We'll see. I don't think any of us. I don't think any of us will. Any of us know what is going to happen. I think we're going to be surprised. I don't know exactly how, but it's something I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here. Yeah, it's getting kind of exciting. So the next topic you wanted to cover is Triffin's dilemma. Please explain what that is and why people are talking about it and why they're wrong.
Sure. So Triffin's dilemma is a concept that the reserve currency must bear a trade deficit. So whoever is the reserve currency must hold a trade deficit because everyone else is using those dollars. So they need dollars on their accounts to for their economies to function. Right now it's dollars. They need dollars on their balance sheets for their currencies to function, so their economies to function. So they constantly send us stuff, and we send out dollars. And the problem is this is supposedly a curse of whoever is the reserve currency of the world. Now,
Sounds
my
completely
question
artificial to me, but yeah.
yeah, that's what I think too. Because I did this happen? My question is, do we know if this happened like to Dutch guilders or Spanish doubloons or British pounds back when they were all gold backed, or is this a function only of the post World War II, U.S. monetary system?
I think it's just post World War II. The idea of a reserve currency, people take monetary concepts of the modern era and they anachronistically transpose them onto economic realities of the past. And like people want to take this idea, this concept of reserve currency as something brought down Torah Sinai from heaven, that this is a thing. And it's just like gold is a thing and it's a natural thing. So is a reserve currency, which, is exploded by supernovas at a ratio of whatever. No, but the whole idea of a reserve currency is itself a fake artificial construction, right? It's basically that there's money. And if people trust one currency over another as representative of that money better, they'll use it more. And so whoever is most trustworthy, but it's like any kind of competition in any industry. The company that has the best product will be used most and will be most well known, will make the most money. But the minute it's not, they'll switch it for another. And then how about you don't have a reserve currency, you just have gold. And then people holding gold in accounts and not lying about it. That's all you need.
So let's say the world's using the British pound, right? So I owe you a debt in British pounds, which is a unit of was it I guess it was a unit of silver and then became a unit of gold. But let's say it's a unit of silver, right? So I owe you a debt of British pounds, let's say 100 British pounds in actual pounds sterling, and I want to pay you with silver dollars. There should be no problem,
There
I
should be
would
no
think,
problem.
right?
You can either pay directly, or if you really want if the contract is like hard in British currency, I'm sure the
Yeah.
British would be happy to station little mints around their empire and charge seigniorage for stamping dollars into pounds, and then charge a little fee, and then okay, then you can fill your contract for you have to pay in this shape coin on that shape coin. What the hell's the difference?
Yeah, okay. So there's not going to be a situation where on a silver standard in this scenario where we're like everyone's sending England stuff just to get their hands on British pounds because you can just say all right, fine, pay me in dollar, pay me in guilders, whatever.
Yeah, as long as it's gold or silver and it's trustworthy. If
Yeah.
everyone in a world where let's imagine we're like in this post-messianic, utopia where nobody lies and steals. Okay? And everybody's just trading and totally honest. So then why would anyone care if it's one currency or the next if they're equally trustworthy? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And so there
Yeah,
is
that's
no
true.
reserve currency. There's just money and different minters of notes and coins and digits, and they're all fine. And it doesn't really matter. All it is like, like there's a whole bunch of like food stands or water stands, and it's all the food and the water is fine. So you'll go to the one that's nearest you, so you don't have to walk so much.
Yeah.
There's no reserve water
Yeah.
currency.
So, all right. So Triffin's dilemma really it's purely an artifact of the fake monetary system. It has nothing to do with a gold or silver standard. Okay. We can
Yeah.
toss that out the window then. I think I agree. I couldn't, I was trying to think like, why would this be happening in the in the age of sale? Like why would people be like, oh yeah, we need Dutch guilders, and therefore we're going to export a bunch of stuff to Holland to get our hands on Dutch guilders. When I say if I owe you Dutch guilders, which are a unit of silver, I could just go find some silver locally and just pay you in that. You'd take it. I can't think of a reason why you'd be like, except for purity, that maybe there's more counterfeit dollars than there are counterfeit Dutch guilders, and you're more worried about that. But then you test it or whatever. And there's nothing that's making me think that Triffin's dilemma applies to anything on a gold and silver standard.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just what he is. This guy saw the inflationary scam, but he didn't understand the root cause was the fake money. That's what I
Right.
think's going on.
Right. The only time when Triffin's dilemma is active is when you have one money issuer who was so powerful, it beat everyone else up and said, you have to take my currency and my money and trust me to give you your derivatives of gold and silver. And if you have any complaints about it, I'm going to punch you in the face. Yeah. And then he has a bunch of trade deficits, and people give him all their stuff and they take his paper. And then this goes on until the paper dies, and then everything reverses, which is where we are now.
All right. All right, we're good. I think we're good on that then. So when people are complaining about Triffin's dilemma, you stackers out there, you can ignore it. It's a bunch of hogwash on a gold standard.
Yeah. I'm going to open your chart here,
Yes. The
and
final
then
the final thing I wanted to talk about today is the illusion of the stock market since 1873.
we have this chart: S&P composite in grams of gold since 1873.
So if you look at this, any viewer looking at this would say, well, over a long period of time, it looks like the stock market is a better investment than gold, a broad portfolio. There are periods, you can see the 1929, 1971 to 1980. Yeah, 1971 to there's a whole decade there, 1971 to 1980. And then of course 2000 to 2010, it looks like except for those periods, it looks like the stocks are better buy than gold. In fact, if you're going to hold through this whole period, like say if you're going to live 150 years, then a broad stock and bond 60/40 portfolio kind of, or at least in this case, the evidence would suggest that a broad index of S&P funds would be a superior way to store your wealth than gold over a long period of time.
Mhm.
But logic would dictate. I'm going to throw this to you. I think you're going to agree with me. If you understand what money is, and you say money is just the way of breaking down, we pick a commodity and we say this commodity is going to break down goods and services. And we picked gold and silver. The market picked gold and silver. I don't want to say it's a conscious decision, but the market picked gold and silver to break down goods and services and establish the price signal. If you look at the number of things you can buy, and that's both investment, so stocks and bonds, and consumer goods and houses and whatever else, that has exploded. The number of things you can buy has exploded over the centuries, over this past 150 years. And because money represents the potential to purchase anything else, everything prices and everything go down in real money terms. So when you have the units of, if you're on an honest gold standard, you should see the price of everything going down over time because there are more things that are competing for the money supply. And the money supply is growing. So people are digging up new gold and they are digging up new silver. However, the number of things to buy is growing much faster than the money supply itself. Additionally, the population is growing much faster than the money supply itself. So you have more people trading more and more things at rates that are going much faster than the money supply. So I would expect that the prices of everything to go down, to deflate slowly over time. Now, what we see here is the price of stocks going up over time. And that means, if I am logically correct, and I think you'll back me up that I am, that this entire thing is an illusion since 1870. And when it blows, or it's going to go back, it's going to go down to a much lower, it's just going to go straight down to, I don't know. I don't know what the final number is going to be, but it's going to be a vertical drop that's going to break this funnel. What do you say,
Mhm.
Rafi?
Okay, so uh there's a few things here. I'm not exactly sure totally what you're saying. I get the point. But two things. First of all, one of the reasons. Okay, so going back to, let's say, Warren Buffett, who hates gold because it's just a rock that you put in a basement and it doesn't produce anything. So assuming we're in an honest world where nobody's inflating, then investing in a broad basket of stocks or companies should be a better investment than gold. Uh, just barring scams or fake companies. Just like some will fail, some will succeed. But the reason that we have more goods and services multiplying faster and faster over the gold supply is because of investment, right? That taking the gold and using it to produce more stuff is riskier than just holding the gold in your backyard or at a bank and doing nothing with it. Most people should be doing nothing with it because they shouldn't be involved in investing at all. And the only thing that's pushing everyone to invest is the inflationary system itself. But really, stocks should be more productive than gold. They should go up in gold terms. They should become more and more expensive gradually, not in these like crazy waves that you see here,
Yeah.
but over time it should increase because if you're going to tell everyone it's always better to hold gold than it is to invest your money, no one's going to invest anything, and you're not going to be able to grow the amount of goods and services nearly as quickly.
Okay, I have a rejoinder to that.
Okay.
So, if you a broad, I think a broad stock portfolio will fail against gold because you'll be better to hold. It'll just be better to hold gold rather than invest in 500 different companies. However, each company is competing to be a market breaker, right? They're coming up with the next big thing. We're gonna innovate. We're gonna make the next best car. And so if you invest in the right company, that company spikes up in value and takes all the market share from everybody else. Now, eventually that company gets stale and old and they don't innovate enough and then it goes back down and hits the flat market thing. So rather than thinking of the entire stock market going up, the way I visualize it is the entire stock market is in gold terms is slowly going down, but there are things that will blip up. And you want to be on, if you're an investor, if you're a capitalist, you want to be on those things as they blip up. You want to find the railroad stock in the 1870s that's gonna revolutionize rail. But there's a bunch of other junk railroad stocks out there as well, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't see because, like I said, the number of companies is always increasing. Well, not always, but the number of companies is generally increasing that are making things, and the number of things that they're increasing, so the amount of consumption is also increasing. So, and all these things are competing for the gold. So that means that less and less and less gold is going to go to each specific thing. So I think the stock market's going to asymptotically approach zero as
Mhm.
gold gets more and more value. And soon, in the far distant future, long after we've passed this mortal coil, people
Mhm.
might be bidding on atoms of gold.
Okay. Okay, so I have a rejoinder to that.
Okay.
Um, so let's imagine in Rothbard's evenly rotating economy, right? In the evenly rotating economy, uh, there is no stock price capital movement, right? All stocks are basically they're stable.
Yes.
But you still get dividends because they're still producing stuff. So then the question becomes, in an evenly rotating economy, would it be better to have gold doing nothing or have gold in stocks that don't move but produce dividends? Obviously, the ones that produce dividends, which is why both you and I have accounts at Monetary Metals that loan out a certain amount of our gold and silver so that it can produce more of it, which is what a bank should be doing. Uh, I mean, you have the pitfalls of the stock could go bankrupt, the company could go bankrupt. But then but really investing, it's hard for us to put ourselves in a world where investing is like a profession, like an electrician who is an electrician because he knows how to do it, or an architect who has to learn how to build buildings and do it well and compete with other architects. An investor, it shouldn't be like everyone is piling all their stuff and giving it to these hedge funds that are following algorithms. It should be just people with a lot of extra money and they want to invest and grow the economy. They should take the risks, and most people should just hold on to their money and do nothing with it.
Or
But
invest in
yeah,
it. Like if your cousin's like, I want to open I want to open a butcher shop or something. Yeah, you invest in a direct project with somebody you're going to maybe work directly with.
yeah,
But you don't go, yeah, I'm going to go invest in 500 companies. I've never heard of 498 of them. And I'm going to trust a guy I'm never going to meet or speak to manage my entire retirement and life savings.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to end. Oh, and that brings me back to the beginning about the flashes of endgame brownouts that are going on. When my son's bed was delivered, I put it together. It was very simple, and it was advertised as eitz maleh, as whole wood, or how would you say that in English?
Hardwood.
Hardwood.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Instead of this seed beat, this like sawdust that's glued together and
Yeah.
like okay, so it was advertised as hardwood, and the platform was hardwood, fine, but the frame was
Plasterboard.
was
Yeah.
sawdust glued together. So as I was like malleting it in to get the parts together, like pieces of it were like flaking off, and it's all okay.
I
So
hate that. I hate that
so
stuff and
like
like home furnishing.
and my wife was like they got me again. They keep fooling me that it's not hardwood. This is glued together sawdust. And then she's like, when is this going to end? I'm like, look, when there's no more inflation, or in a regular like in a village, let's say in a small town, you didn't go to Amazon and like type in bed frame and then get it from China, and then and then these people that can't even load their trucks correctly and give you someone else's mattress, they just like plop it on your floor and leave. Okay, you went to your local carpenter and you designed a bed, right?
Yeah.
Bespoke, because not because you're rich, but because that's the guy that builds stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, look, I was like, if you want a good bed, we have to go to the carpenter, and then he
Yeah.
will draw up design plans for us, and then we'll have a really nice bed. That's what everyone is going to have to do, and most people are not going to be able to afford it because they don't have any money. But we're going to go back to that. We're going to go back to if you want something, you're going to have to go to your local guy who has skills with his hands and he can build you stuff and it's going to be good quality or he's going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No more plaster. I mean, that's a sign of how poor we all are, is that we're all, I mean, even me, I try and get furniture and it's all that sawdust glued together. Even if the front is wood, it's like, and you can't even get to get the Amish furniture, it costs like multiples, many, orders of magnitude more expensive than the IKEA drawer. And
They
you're
are
just like,
going to be so wealthy, the Amish. They're so rich. They're so rich culturally. They're
yeah,
so
I
rich
know.
in skills. They're so rich because they haven't shot themselves up with all this medical crap. Maybe they have like extra fingers on their hands sometimes because of inbreeding, but so do Ashkenazi Jews, and we have like Tay-Sachs and all this other stuff. But whatever, we're getting over it.
Getting
Um,
over it. Anyway, hold on. I wanted to go back to the gold thing real quick.
okay.
So let's hold the gold supply completely flat. We've mined all the gold in the world, right? So
Mhm.
there's no more gold to mine. So money is now a zero sum game, right? If you're taking money, there's no other money to get, right? Besides what's floating around. So in that case, it's not possible for the stock market to go up. The stock market must be flat. I mean, over
Mhm.
time, I should say,
Yeah.
or down. But as more companies emerge, right, because as more and more people come up with more and more innovative ways to do things, there's
Mhm.
more stocks all competing for the exactly same amount of gold. So the
Mhm.
stock market must slope downward as more companies are evolved and as the population increases as well. So the only thing that would slope things upward is the money supply, the physical money supply itself increasing faster than the uses for the money, which I don't think is happening.
Yeah, so if you're talking about illusions of the stock market, even in a perfectly gold standard, silver standard world, the number that you see on the S&P 500, even if it's completely honest money, doesn't matter. What matters is what you can buy with that number, right? The number
Yes, also
itself,
true.
even in a completely honest monetary system, is itself an illusion because it doesn't mean much out of context,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Rafi, I tell you what, I am looking forward to real furniture again. I'm tired of I going back to that real quick. I am so tired of crap.
I like you. You're a hell of a piece of furniture.
Yeah, well, we can get real furniture. It's possible. I mean, there are woodworkers. They exist. But the problem is like they have to charge so much for any real
Yeah.
work that they do that they'll automatically say like if you want someone to build a bed for you, they're like, no, it's not worth it for me because I have to do these other bigger project for these bigger contractors and like churn out all this stuff. But then if you pay him enough, he'll do it. It's just like you need a lot.
Yeah, so they only cater basically to the wealthy. Like this chest right here, that chest, that's not real.
Mhm.
That's not real wood. That's not a real hardwood chest. It's fairly flimsy.
Yeah. Oh, the last thing, this is what I wanted to say. The last thing, and then we'll call it a day, call it a
Sure.
month, is that okay, so my wife also, this is another thing, another endgame flicker. She ordered a bunch of clothes for my two younger daughters, and I know that they're crap. I can't even find a place to buy good clothing. We're talking about woodworkers or hard and supply, talking about tailors. I mean, forget that,
Yeah.
What am I gonna go to Savile Row to get my like 5-year-old a nice dress? I'm not insane. So, so like they show up in these boxes. Okay, they look nice, and I hear this saying plastic clothing, and I kind of know that it's true. But then the marketing pitch for this company was like, look what we do, and then it showed like plastic bottles being like churned in a machine,
Oh,
like
yeah,
and
turn into
grist
string.
coming
Yeah.
out, and then melting it down, and then you see like the weave and like they're making clothes out of these garbage plastic. It's literally true, and they're proud of it. I understand why they're proud of it. It's like, environmental yuppieism infecting all this stuff. But then, the clothing kind of seeps into your body and who knows what it does and,
Yeah.
goes into your vesicles, your seminal vesicles and like mutates your sperm and has you creating all these weird plastic human monsters. Okay.
Wow, that went
I'm
in the
going a little bit
direction.
too far, but that sounds plausible to me.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I do the plastic clothes. I have some plastic clothes for exercising, and they smell worse. Like you have to really treat them to get the smell out. I don't know why. Like regular clothes you can just wash, but the plastic clothes you have to like soak in vinegar and all this other stuff. You ever noticed that?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
maybe
Maybe
well,
it's because I
my
know
wife
who to
is always
compare
telling
it
me to take
to.
showers.
Uh,
All right, that's
okay.
it.